have been doing everything I could to put food on our table so we can be fine. Since we have nobody but each other, now I'm sick. And you know this. Go out this night and bring money home. You refused. Am I the useless one? The one who has no life? I can sell my body, but you can't. No way. You have to choose one. It's either you go out and hustle this night, or you move out of this home. In a beautiful and bustling city of Lagos lived a young man named Femi. Femi had a very strong desire for sex. Every night, he felt the urge to find a girl on the street and take her home with him. He did not seem to resist this temptation, and it became a regular part of his routine. He never liked spending a night alone, so he always found companionship in this way. Despite being 32 years old and successful in his career, Femi struggled with a strong desire for sex. He took his work very seriously and had achieved financial independence. But this aspect of his personal life really troubled him. His friends suggested that he settles down and starts a family, but Femi had reservations. He dreamt of marrying a virgin. Though he believed it was nearly impossible to find one in the city where he lived, he noticed that many people around were involved in activities like prostitution and casual hookups. He was still adamant and vowed he was not going to marry any of the hookup girls. Across the city of Lagos, there lived a small village called Ilobu. There lived two poor orphan twin sisters named Tenny and Toba. They struggled to navigate through life, and life was so hard for them. Tenny and Toba shared a very striking resemblance. They were identical twins. They were orphans who relied on each other for support. Despite their bond, their path in life was very different. Tenny engaged in prostitution to make ends meet for herself and her sister, while Toba was always home trying to look for the best possible way to help out at home because she did not want to seek that kind of lifestyle. Tenny got really sick one day with malaria and couldn't go out to do a job. She asked Toba to go out that night instead, but Toba said no because she did not want to have sex with strangers. This made Tenny really mad because she needed the money. She felt like her sister was letting her down and Toba was not helping them survive like they had planned. Tenny got upset and said, I have been doing everything I could to put food on our table so we can be fine. Since we have nobody but each other, now I'm sick. And you know this. Go out this night and bring money home. You refused. Am I the useless one? The one who has no life? I can sell my body, but you can't. No way. You have to choose one. It's either you go out and hustle this night, or you move out of this home. Toba stayed firm and said she would not change her mind because she wanted to keep her virginity and stick to her beliefs and morals. After the heated argument between the two twins, Toba gave in to Tenny's demands. As she got ready to leave, Tenny dressed her in her own clothes, necklace, bracelets, and earrings, dressed her in a very revealing clothes. Toba stood by the roadside where Tenny usually carried out her night business. While she stood on the roadside, an expensive car put up in front of her, and it was Femi. He asked her how much for a night, and Toba, still feeling bitter, reluctantly named the price. Then he invited her to get into the car. Inside the car, Femi began to touch Toba's leg, complimenting her beauty. Despite her irritation, she tried to smile, though her true feelings were evident in her expression. When they arrived at the hotel, Toba felt very nervous. Femi suggested they go to a club to have fun before heading to the room, but Toba did not agree. However, Femi promised to pay her more money, so she reluctantly accepted. In the club, Femi offered Toba a drink, but she refused because she doesn't drink and she doesn't know much about these kinds of places. Femi insisted, and eventually Toba felt pressured to drink. Toba's main reason for being there in the first place was to avoid being kicked out of the house by her own twin sister. Femi noticed Toba's hesitant and timid behavior failure and he assumed she was new to this kind of work. Toba became very drunk that night and she couldn't function properly. Seeing this, Femi decided to take her to the room he had arranged for himself and her. He gently placed her on the bed and then left to freshen up. Femi entered the room and tried to wake Toba up, but she wasn't responding well due to being heavily intoxicated. He then proceeded to undress both himself and her. Toba, in her intoxicated state, managed to protest against Femi's advances, telling him he was a virgin. Femi dismissed her words, thinking she was just talking because she was drunk. He continued trying to be intimate with her, but Toba kept repeating that she was a virgin. Toba cried out, "I'm not a prostitute. I just needed this money so my sister won't send me away from her house." Frustrated Femi insisted she stop talking and eventually raised his voice, telling her that her payment is on the table and to be quiet. Toba finally complied and Femi proceeded with his actions despite her continued objections. Femi had never kissed any street girls before. He just do what he needed to do without any type of romance. But this time, he felt like kissing Toba. He felt she was special and admired her beautiful face. He kissed Toba, then he did what he wanted to do while wearing protection. It was his first time enjoying sex. Her body was tight, not loose like other girls he had been with before. They both slept off. Femi woke up in the morning expecting to see Toba beside him, but she wasn't there. Confused, he looked around the room, but Toba was nowhere to be found. As Femi got out of bed, he noticed blood everywhere in the sheets, on his body and around the room. Shocked and alarmed, he realized the significance of the stains and what had likely occurred during the night. Despite this initial admiration for Toba, Femi felt really bad because he realized Toba was telling the truth about being a virgin. He regretted taking her virginity for money. As he walked to the bedroom, he saw Toba's necklace she forgot behind. Femi felt really bad about what happened with Toba. He knew he had to find her and apologize. So he quickly got dressed and left the hotel to look for her. Meanwhile, Toba woke up feeling confused and ashamed. She left the hotel in a hurry, not wanting to see Femi or anyone else from that night again. Feeling really down, Toba went home. She decided to give back the money Femi had given her to her sister, Tenny. Tenny felt happy seeing the huge amount of money because nobody had ever paid her so much for one night's work, even though her sister's face showed she was hurting. Toba eased in pain as she walked slowly, feeling discomfort from her encounter with Femi. She went into the bedroom to take a bath. Seeing her sister's discomfort, Tenny laughed and said, "Don't worry, you will soon get used to it if you keep this work." From the bedroom, Toba rejected Tenny's suggestions firmly. Crying, she said, "I will never do such thing again. I feel useless. I feel molested. Never again." She cried as she showered, feeling sheep and ashamed of what happened the previous night. Meanwhile, Femi ran to the streets with the necklace, hoping to find Toba, but his search was unsuccessful. So he decided to go back home and get ready for work. At work, couldn't shake off the memory of Toba pleading with him, saying she just needed money and wasn't a street girl. The guilt weighed heavily on him, making him restless throughout the day. After work, he hurried to the spot where he had picked Toba up, hoping to find her there, but she wasn't there. Desperate to find her, Femi described Toba to other girls working in the area, but none of them knew her. Femi realized he didn't know Toba's name, phone number, or even where she lived. The only clue she had was the necklace she had left behind in the hotel room. For 2 whole weeks, Femi searched for Toba, and it was the hardest time he had ever faced in his lifetime. Even though he usually couldn't go a night without being with a woman, he managed to stay away from that for weeks. Toba's beauty, her clear skin, and her innocence stuck in Femi's mind. One night, Toba carried another lady from his usual spot transport to the hotel, but as soon as she tried to get close to him, it was like he was seeing Toba, and he smiled. But when the new girl touched him, he realized it was different and he felt really irritated. This reaction was really unlike Femi. Toba's image has clouded his mind. He offered the street girl money to go home and he decided to hang out with his friends instead. While Femi was with his friends, he felt down but couldn't bring himself to admit that he was in love with a girl he met on the street. He knew his friends would tease him about it, so he didn't mention it. One of his friends, Akin, noticed Femi's mood and tried to cheer him up. Akin showed him a photo of a beautiful girl on Facebook. Femi wasn't interested at first, but Akin insisted. When Solomon looked at the photo, he saw Tenny wearing the same necklace that Toba had left behind. He asked Akin to send him the screenshot of Tenny's profile. Later, when Femi was home, he checked Tenny's profile and saw a picture of her that looked a lot like Toba wearing the same necklace. He felt like he had finally found the person he has been looking for weeks. Since Tenny's number was on her profile, Femi decided to take note of it. He tried calling Tenny, but she couldn't answer the call. Femi decided he would try calling her again the next day. When he got to work the next day, Femi called Tenny again and she finally picked up. "Hello," Tenny answered. "Hi, it's Femi," he said. "I'm really sorry about what happened the other night. Please don't end the call. Please hear what I have to say. It's Femi, the guy that took you to Landmark Hotel. I took your virginity just for money and I feel very terrible about it. I want to see you again and give you back the necklace you forgot behind. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me." Tenny, cleverly realizing Femi was referring to her twin sister Toba, played along. She asked Femi how he got her number and he explained he found it on Facebook. They agreed to meet at the mall to exchange the necklace at the mall. Femi and Tenny made up, although he noticed some differences with Tenny compared to Toba, but the face was the same. He apologized again and again and pleaded with her not to go back to the streets. Tenny explained that she had to due to her aunt's demand. "My aunt will send me out of the house if I don't go to the streets." Tenny replied, "I have nowhere else to go or stay. This is my only means of survival." In response, Femi offered her enough money to find accommodation and start a business so she would not have to return to the streets. Grateful and very excited, Tenny accepted and Femi gave her a check of a large amount of money before they said their goodbyes. When Femi got home, he felt a difference in his connection with Tenny compared to Toba. He couldn't shake the feeling that Tenny seemed more exposed. After thinking about it over and over, he assumed it was because they hadn't seen each other over a long time. Tenny went home feeling incredibly excited. "Yes, I've hit the jackpot," she said to herself. "Not only will I have to live here, but I will also be able to get a big shop and have a handsome and wealthy guy like Femi." Tenny was on top of the world. A few days later, she started packing her things in the house. When Toba asked where she was going, Tenny replied aggressively, "I'm finding my own way. I can't keep staying in this dirty place with you." Tenny pleaded with her to at least tell her where she was going, but she refused to share any details with her twin sister. Tenny moved to a new house and Toba was left there, all alone, suffering. Tenny started a big clothing business, selling luxury clothes. Femi continued to communicate with Tenny over the phone and he was happy to hear that she was doing well. However, he still felt like something was missing. Femi decided to take Tenny to his house and showed her where he lived, and to her surprise, he lived alone. Tenny's eyes widened and she smiled to herself, realizing that her life had changed for better. Femi continued to support Tenny financially so that she would not lack anything at all or think of going back to the streets. One day, Femi arrived at work to find his office in a mess. He called the secretary to inquire why the cleaner has not showed up, only to learn that the cleaner had stopped coming to work. The secretary quickly tidied up the office herself and Femi instructed her to put up a notice outside the office for the position of a cleaner. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, Toba had been searching for a job outside of her village near the city because it was difficult for her to make ends meet since Tenny had left her. When she saw the signboard advertised for the cleaner position at Femi's office, she wasted no time and applied for the job. The secretary asked her to start work the next day. Toba resumed work late the next day and quickly began sweeping the office. When Femi entered and saw his dusty table, he instructed his secretary to call the new cleaner to clean his table and mop the floor, which she did. As turned to make a call, Toba entered the office to clean the table and chairs. In the process, she accidentally pushed down a file. Coincidentally, both her and Femi bent down to pick it up. Their heads collided, and when they looked at each other, they recognized each other's faces. Shocked to see Femi, Toba tried to run from the office, but Femi stopped her by holding her waist from behind. Toba apologized, saying she was sorry for everything innocently. Femi saw the innocence on her face, the same innocence he had seen the night they had met. Feeling a deep connection as he touched her, Femi realized there was something special about Toba. He asked her why she was there after he had opened a big shop for her. Toba simply replied, "I'm sorry, sir. Please let me go." While he demanded answers from Toba, Tenny called him. They talked while Toba was in front of him. After the call, Femi seemed shocked and asked Toba, "Who are you?" "I'm confused." Toba, shivering with fear, pleaded with him to let her go. Femi assured her that he wouldn't hurt her and persuaded her to sit down. He then asked her if she had a twin. Toba replied that she had an identical twin sister who looked exactly like her, and people often mistook them. Still surprised, Femi asked for her name and she replied, "My name is Toba." Femi then showed her the photo Akin had sent him earlier. "This necklace, you forgot it in the hotel room. Is this not you wearing the necklace in this photo?" Femi asked. Toba replied, "That's my twin sister. How did you get a photo on your phone?" Femi replied, "Never mind," and shifted closer to the chair where Toba was sitting. He apologized sincerely for hurting her that night and explained that he had been searching for her ever since. He acknowledged that he had made a mistake by taking her virginity in such a way, and he asked Toba to give him a chance to make things right. Toba insisted that he hadn't done anything wrong because he had paid for the services, but Femi continued to plead for her forgiveness. He then asked for her phone number, but Toba didn't have a phone. When he requested her address, she explained that the place didn't have an address. Despite their conversation, Toba expressed a desire to continue her work because she had other offices to clean. Femi picked up the mop and threw it away, telling Toba that she wouldn't work as a cleaner anymore. He then took her out to buy a phone and accompanied her back home. When they arrived, Femi noticed photos of Tenny and Toba on the wall and the poor condition of the room. As he was going through the photos, the landlord arrived to throw Toba's belongings out of the house because she had owed rent for almost 6 months. Despite Femi's attempt to reason with the landlord, he refused to listen. In response, Femi gathered Toba's belongings and took her to his own house. Toba had many emotions when she moved in with Femi. She was grateful for his help, but she also felt a little too much to handle. Femi really wanted to assist Toba. However, he noticed that Toba seemed uncomfortable staying there for even just a day, so he decided to find a better place to stay. He called his lawyer to help him arrange for the house. While Femi was talking to his lawyer, Toba walked in unexpectedly. Femi quickly ended the call and told the lawyer he would call back. Curious, Toba asked why Femi was doing so much for her when she had nothing to offer in return. Femi reassured her that he didn't expect anything in return and just wanted her to relax. But Toba, feeling uncertain, suggested that if Femi brought her here just to be intimate with her, then she couldn't stay. Femi responded firmly, saying he called his lawyer to find a better place for accommodation. He confessed his feelings for Toba, saying that he liked her a lot and was even in love with her. However, he would not force her to accept his feelings. Instead, he promised to assist her regardless of their relationship status. The next day, Femi and Toba went to see different apartments. Femi said he would pay for whichever one Toba liked best. They visited a few places, but Toba didn't like any of them, even though the apartments they saw were all nice and costly. Toba felt she could trust Femi. She felt safe around him and started thinking about staying with him in his house. Femi and Toba went back to his house. He promised that he would go apartment hunting the next day so she could choose anyone she liked. But Toba surprised him by saying she wanted to stay in his house. She asked him to promise not to be physical with her. Femi smiled with excitement and said, "I'm grateful you trust me. I won't come close except you want me to. So you still want to get close with my consent?" Femi responded sarcastically, saying, "Yes, because I love you so much. You changed me since that day we met in the hotel. I stopped humanizing. I couldn't go a day without touching a woman before, but you indirectly and directly turned me away from all women." Femi was curious to know about Toba's background and he asked her to share more about herself. He wanted to know where she grew up, about her family, and what happened that made her end up on the streets that day. Toba shared with Femi that her both parents had passed away a while back, leaving just her and her twin sister. Life was tough in the village, so they decided to move closer to the city to try to make a living. That they had a plan to work hard, but unfortunately, her twin sister ended up on the streets. Despite this, her twin sister always took care of the bills. She also told him that on the day she ended up on the streets, her sister was sick and was unable to walk. She felt pressure to go out and also to make ends meet, following the threat from her twin sister to kick her out if she couldn't go. With nowhere else to turn, I have no choice but to join her on the streets. As Toba recounted her story, tears welled up in her eyes. Femi felt a wave of empathy for her and put her in a comforting embrace as she cried while sharing her difficult experience. Toba also asked Femi why he was humanizing. He explained that many women were interested in him because of his money, and some even deceived him. Since then, he felt like instead of being with women who are only interested in his wealth, it would be better to pick girls from the streets. He believed that they might be more genuine and not after his money. Toba comforted Femi and they shared a comforting hug. Meanwhile, it had been a week since Tenny had been trying to reach Femi, but he refused to answer her calls because he knew he was an impostor. Despite this avoidance, Tenny decided to pay him a visit at his house. Toba and Femi had become good friends after their heart-to-heart talk. Toba felt safer with him and he appreciated her trust. One day, while they were relaxing at Femi's house, there was a knock on the door. Femi went to answer it, and to Toba's surprise, it was Tenny. Tenny looked shocked to see Toba in Femi's house. She looked at Toba suspiciously. "Why are you here?" she asked sharply. Toba felt scared. "I'm staying with Femi," she said quietly. Tenny softened a little, but still seemed angry. "Why?" she asked. Toba glanced at Femi. "For help. Femi is helping me to find a place to stay," she explained. "I didn't have anywhere else to go." Tenny seemed a bit calmer. Then she turned to Femi, looking angry again. "Why did you bring her here?" she demanded. Femi said, "I'm helping Toba. She needed a place to stay." Femi said with a serious look, "Since you left her and you are pretending to be her," he said. Toba raised her brows in confusion. "What are you talking about, Femi? Pretending to be her? What do you mean?" she asked, puzzled. Femi explained how Tenny had pretended to be Toba, but he was relieved when he finally found the real Toba. Before Toba could fully understand, Tenny tried to drag her away, insisting they go to her house, but Toba refused and Femi stepped in to protect her. Leave her alone, Tenny, Femi said firmly. Tenny glared at Toba, threatening to deal with her later, before storming out of the house, feeling furious that Toba might take Femi away from her. When Tenny got home, she decided to visit her uncles and aunties in the village to seek their help in evicting Toba from Femi's house. So she journeyed to the village and lied to her relative, who had never helped her or Toba before, to come and take Toba away from Femi. They all agreed and arrived in the city, and Tenny took them to Femi's house. But unfortunately, he wasn't at home. Toba opened the door and welcomed them surprised. They entered the house, knowing Femi would be a very rich man, so they wanted to strike a deal that would benefit them, not Tenny. The aunt and uncle spoke among themselves and agreed to wait for Femi's return. However, Tenny was impatient and wanted them to forcefully remove Toba from the house. But because of their own selfish interest, they realized that if they took Toba out and Femi returned without seeing her, he might field police reports against them. Toba decided to call Femi to come home due to an emergency, and he rushed home only to find a lot of strangers in his house. He greeted them and they introduced themselves as Toba's paternal relatives. They told Femi they came to take Toba away because it was against their tradition for a girl to stay in the same house with a man who wasn't her husband. Femi replied, "I'm sorry about breaking your tradition, but I would really love to marry Toba." When Tenny heard this, she got very angry. The uncles and aunts replied to Femi, "Now you are talking." They invited Femi to their village to take the lead for marriage arrangements. Tenny told her uncles and aunties that this wasn't the reason she invited them. She invited them to evict Toba from the house, but now they were arranging a marriage. Hey beautiful people, this is just the beginning of the story. You want to make sure you are subscribed to this channel. Please like and also drop a comment on what you think about this particular story. Please drop a comment in the comment section and also tell me, where are you watching this video from? I would love to connect with you in the comment section. I will see you in the part 2. Till then, bye for now. Stay blessed and positive.